So just don't get obsessed by that number. Look at the LinkedIn is actually really good. You look at the stats afterwards and you can then see how many people are watching the replay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to make, well, it's to basically make your live shows boring, because you want to stand out from the feed. You want.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Win the Hour, Win the Day. And I am your host, Chris Ward. And today we have a topic that we have never discussed here before. So I'm eager to dive into it. Today we have in the house Ian Anderson Gray, and he is the confident live video guy. And we're not going to talk about confidence. We're going to talk about live video. Welcome to the show, Ian.
Thanks, Chris. It's great to be here. I'm excited.
Okay, I am too. All right. So here's the thing. Listen, what has been started to being shoved down my throat as of late, I'm starting to finally listen and hear this, is in order to really build a community or to have impact or to get the following that you want to have as an entrepreneur, you need to be doing lives. He's nodding, but now he's going to speak, right?
Yeah, you do. Well, I wasn't sure whether you wanted me to dive in there, but I will.
It'd be a long hour. I'll interpret his head gestures. Yes. So, okay. So lives are the game changer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for so many different reasons. I mean, first of all, you get the visibility.
Okay.
So people will see that you're there. They might not necessarily have the time to drop everything and watch you live straight away, but they'll watch the replay. They'll start to engage with you. You can build a community around the comments, and that helps your organic reach over time as well. So there's that. And then there's the whole thing of turning your live video into a content repurposing machine. And that is something I think as entrepreneurs, we all are very aware of our time. We want to be intelligent and smart with our time. And I think that's another reason why live video is so powerful and one of the reasons why I love it.
Let me jump in there then. So here's the thing. So we're all pushing out content. You know, I do a lot of short form videos, and short form keeps getting shorter, right? So they're saying, okay, no longer is it 1 minute. Now everyone's following suit with TikTok. So even YouTube are doing YouTube short. So short, right? 30-second short, 20-second short. So then explain to me, if that is, being the theme of the day, then why is somebody going to tune into my lives? And the lives are obviously going to be longer. So I'm having enough trouble finding people to watch my short videos, but yet everyone's saying, then you got to go live. Seems like I'm going in that opposite direction.
Well, so it's a really good point. First of all, I'll say I know this is controversial, but not everyone likes short form video. Like, right. I'm a case in point. I personally don't enjoy them that much, and my audience are split between different people. However, short form video is here to stay. So you've got the great thing about starting with live video is that you are creating this piece of content that you can then repurpose into a blog post, into a podcast, into short form video as well. What I do with my live video is it allows me to create a piece of content quickly and easily. Yes, I have to plan it, but then I go live. I'm either on my own or with a guest, and I'm creating that content. I'm being visible, I'm engaging with my audience, I'm building a community, but I'm creating content without any of that horrible procrastination that can sometimes get in the way. I'm creating that content that can then be repurposed into all these other, into short form video. You can make YouTube shorts, TikToks out of them as well, or at least use that video as inspiration for that short form content as well. So I would always start with live video for those reasons. It's such a powerful way to get started.
Okay, so let me piggyback on that. I think what happens too is I find this when I do, because we're all about efficiency here and anti-hustle. So I find that even when I have to write a blog, what I do is I'll hit the, recorder tool in Google, and I will talk, because talking is, you just say things that but when you sit down to you write a script or write something out, you're like, oh, what am I going to talk about? And you try to make it so structured and proper. So I do think it lends itself when you're doing a live that you're like, oh, that person's made this comment and that brought this out in my answer, or I hadn't heard that before. So you're coming from a different perspective. Okay. So let's say we buy into that. then let's go with, what are some tips to make lives more dynamic and interesting? How long should they be? Do I need to have a guest? Is it important I do it regularly? Does regularly mean once a week, or does it mean every day? What are some parameters?
Well, there's so many things there. First of all, I don't want to say there is one way of doing things, because we all have different situations, different seasons in our lives. We were just talking before we started recording today, like I have to pick my daughter up, or I have to drop my daughter off at swimming later. So like some of us will have kids that we're running around, some of us won't, we'll have more time. So you have to work out what is the system for you. And also what's going to really engage with your audience the most. So for me, I go live twice per week, or that's the plan. Okay. I haven't been doing that recently because life gets in the way sometimes, but my plan is to go live twice per week. And the reason for that is because I can then build up a buffer for my podcast, which comes out once per week. So that means that over time, I can build up, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks before the podcast episode gets put out. And I've got, I have a team of people that will help with that process, but it just means that I'm not stressing because the podcast has to go out tomorrow.
Okay, so hold on, let me jump in here just so I understand. So if you were me, then what we're recording here would be a live on LinkedIn, and then later I would be putting it on my podcast.
That's the way I do it. And because so I will go live with my guest, and it's usually at the same time every week. So I do 11 a.m. in the UK on Tuesdays, which is great for my UK and Australian audience, and then 4 p.m. on Thursdays for my UK and American audience. And that also hopefully fits in with my guests. However, not all guests can do that, and I'll have to change the time. So I do that twice per week, and then that means that the podcast always comes out every single Friday, and I've got time to edit it, to turn it into a blog post, and do all the repurposing side of things.
Okay, so that's interesting. All right, so then you're going live on LinkedIn, correct?
So I actually multi-stream. This is not necessarily for but it's LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook are the 3 platforms.
Okay. All right. So you do that. And you know what? I'm all about efficiency, and I'm pretty, with the nature of the work that we all have to be tech savvy, but I did remember going to do lives on LinkedIn. And then the first thing, the barrier was, you need a third party tool. And I thought, nuts to that. I'll do that later, which by the way, later was, I think now 18 months ago. So here we are. Okay. So what is a third party tool? And let me go back for a second to the lives. I guess everybody, depending on what you're doing, it depends on how long they are. So I know for podcasts, they say the average one should be about 20 minutes because that's the length of the average car drive. Do we have any kind of feedback on lives for LinkedIn?
Well, yeah, people say that, but some podcasts that are really popular, I know Joe Rogan is a divisive figure, but his podcasts are like 2 hours, 2.5 hours long. So there are some podcasts that go on for a long, long time, and they're very, very popular.
Sidebar information here. I don't know why he's so fascinating. I find his podcast really just like kind of boring, and he drags the interviews out. But
well, yeah, but
am I the only one in the world? I'm like, I liked him as an actor, but when these are a lot, but I do listen to Dax Shepard or other people, and they do sometimes have, there's several I listen to that you're right, are 2 hours. And I just pick it up the next time I'm in the car.
And that's the thing, I will rarely listen to a long podcast all in one go, but if I'm interested in the subject. So actually the more important question is this a subject that my audience are going to be fascinated by and that I can give value to? So then in a sense, it doesn't matter. What you can do, and I know some successful podcasters do this. So like my friend Eric Fisher has a podcast called Beyond the To-Do List. And
I'm a big fan of Eric. I love Eric. He's awesome. I've been on his show. He's amazing. He's been nothing but wonderful to me. So sorry to interrupt you, but yes.
He's great. Yes. So like he's been doing this recently. He's done his longer form. I can't remember how long his are. They're sometimes like 45 minutes, I think, but around that. But he does some shorter ones. So he's got these kind of like in a nutshell kind of, so maybe 10 minutes. So that's something you could do. You could occasionally do some shorter ones and split it up. And in answer to your other question, like solo guests, I split it because, and I actually, as a consumer, I actually quite like the split because sometimes I want to listen to the main, the host share their thoughts on the subject, but sometimes I want to hear somebody else, a real expert in the field, because at the end of the day, we can't know everything about everything. And when it comes to live video on my show, I mean, I do a lot of solo episodes, but I don't know everything about all the stuff that I talk about. So I want to bring in experts. I want, and I also want to hear their thoughts on it. And this helps when it comes to you writing a blog post or coming up with an idea, maybe even writing a book, because you're starting to think through. You might not have the idea completely fully formed. So if you can invite other people onto your show, you can then start to kind of think it through. And then eventually you might be able to then produce a book or something containing all these different thoughts from different people. So there's so much to talk about there, but that's
yeah, I agree with you so much, because I know, like, when I'm on other podcasts, so I have this beautiful setup here where people come through to this podcast, and it's really general. It could be anything from sales to social media, but it's not my lane of expertise. I'm all about, that your business should support your life, not consume it, and we do all that. So I just didn't want this to turn into, lack of a better word, a productivity podcast every week, because that just kind of, it's like people talking about diets all the time. So I have this world here that I quite enjoy, because I get to meet fascinating people. But then when I'm out there producing my content, or I'm on other shows talking about, as all my clients say, you can get 25 hours back a week within the first month of working with us. What I find, though, is you're right. The more time you're talking about your content or engaging with others, the more it clarifies your messaging, because then you're like, oh, they keep asking me about this. Oh, that apparently I was over here talking about A and they're asking me about B. So it really does allow you to sort of boil down the really juicy parts of your, of your content that does then make it more purposeful when you put it out in a book or a blog or whatever. So I do think just the practice of that is worth, if nobody listens, the practice of that, you being out there, serves you.
I think so. And also, I think sometimes we probably don't like this, but I think this is important. Sometimes it's good for us to be challenged as well. Sometimes I know we don't like it, but sometimes I've come up with what I think is an amazing idea. And then I've had a guest on my show who I'll never ask back, but they kind of disagree with me slightly. And actually that's really good, because sometimes sometimes we'll think, actually, I am right, and you have to come up with good reasons to counteract that argument. But sometimes you have to tweak what you're saying. And with my podcast, I think I've grown in my knowledge, but also I've refined what I've already got through interviewing fascinating guests on my show. So we probably don't like it, but it's good.
I don't mind people disagree with me at all. The challenging and disagreeing I see is two different paths, but okay. So listen, so then I don't want to get all techie here, but what do you recommend to stream all these three things at the same time?
So keep it simple to begin with. You need a tool. I would use a web-based live video tool. There are lots to choose from. StreamYard is probably the easiest. But there's Restream, there's Wave Video, there's quite a few. I personally use Ecamm Live, which is a Mac-based tool, which is a little bit more complicated, but it's not too bad, and I love it, and it allows you to do so many cool things. So that's what I do. And all those tools, the cool thing about that is they allow you to download the video and the audio separately afterwards. So you can then, what I will then do is I will then put them in. So another tool I use is called Descript.
Descript.
Download, bung those into Descript. It will transcribe it into words. I will do a quick edit. Don't edit too much, by the way. Just, people don't want perfect. Put an intro and outro, download the MP3, bung it up onto your podcast host, and you're done. I'm oversimplifying it, but in a sense, that's kind of all that you need to do.
Okay, I love it. All right. So what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when doing live streams? So again, you're saying find your audience. You don't know. It's really like a recipe. I have family come over and I have different lanes. This is the healthy lane. And then these are the meat and potato lanes. And I know who's coming for dinner? I'm a totally different person for these two groups of people. Right. And so you have to find out what your audience wants to consume. Maybe they do best with 15 minutes. Maybe they do best with 45 minutes, whatever. Okay, great. So we're going to accept that. We got to play around with it, figure it out. What do you see as some of the bigger misunderstandings or issues with doing lives?
Well, I think there's that number that you see on the top left-hand corner when you go live, which is the number of people that are watching you live. Right. And that can do one of two things. The first thing that can happen is you see it's either a big fat 0 or very low, and you want to give up and you think, nobody loves me. And you forget that if you're just starting, the likelihood is it's going to be a big fat 0.
Okay.
There are things that you can do. There's obviously, you need to let people know. This is called marketing. So let people know that you're going to go live. But that's the first thing. You're forgetting about the people who are going to watch the replay. Or the opposite can happen. It's really high and you kind of freak out and you then stumble over your words. So just don't get obsessed by that number. Look at LinkedIn is actually really good. You look at the stats afterwards and you can then see how many people are watching the replay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to basically make your live shows boring, because you want to stand out from the feed. You want to do things maybe a little bit differently from what other people are doing, but make sure, and I know this is an overly used word, but be yourself, be authentic. Just people can spot can't say the word inauthenticity. Is that a word? I think it is.
I don't know. Let's invent it.
I'm going to make it up. So like be yourself, because it's just excruciating if you see somebody who's trying to be somebody else. So if you're not like an overly energetic person, that's okay. You might need to level things up a little bit. I call this heightened authenticity. So put a bit more energy in it, but be yourself, because there'll be some people out there, your perfect client, who actually don't want the really, really overly excited person. So be yourself as well, because that's just the best
Okay,
way.
let me unpack some of this. Okay, so first of all, I'm all about marketing, but you're right. You get so focused on, all right, you know what? Ian's right. I'm going to start going live. Boom, I'm going to schedule it. And you're like, because now I'm focused on, I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit to it. And you're like, oh, I forgot to tell other people I've made this new commitment. So that sounds ridiculously obvious, but I'm telling you, I think I would have skipped that week 1 going, oh, right. Yeah. I forgot to tell somebody else. Okay. So market it. Let me on there. I guess, again, I know that's a question with a lot of variables in it. Do you just remind people once a week, or I guess, do a little hype up front
So there are loads of things. I mean, I'll just very briefly mention, I've got so this is a good acronym. It's called the 5 Ps. Okay. The 5 Ps. So the first P you need is to plan. Then you need to pre-promote your live show. Then you need to produce it. After you finish, you need to, because at this point, people then think, well, that's it. But no, you need to post-promote it. So you need to let people know about the replay. And then finally, I'm kind of cheating here, but there is a P in there, repurposing or repurpose your live show. So like when we're talking about pre-promotion, so if you're using a tool like StreamYard or Restream or Ecamm or whatever, it will allow you to schedule in advance. So this will be for Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn all allow you to schedule in advance. It used to be up to a week in advance, but now I think it's like up to a year in advance. So when you do that, you'll get a link for LinkedIn, a link for YouTube, a link for Facebook, wherever you're going to go. Then, like, use social media, use email. So you can make a little video saying what you're going to be talking about, or you can make an image. If you're using like tools like Canva or Adobe Express, those kind of things. So let people know. But email your list. Let them know what's happening. You can get more techie as you go along. You can use Facebook Messenger bots. You can use I can't remember the name of the tool, but there's like calendar tools that you can get so it's all those kind of things. But just let people know, and you need to let them know more than once, because they'll probably miss it the first time.
You're right. Okay. And that is the thing too, when you are busy and you think, all right, I'm going to do this live because everyone says I should. And then you show up the first week or two and it's a big fat 0 and you think, well, this doesn't work, I'm going home. Right? Yeah. But you're right. It doesn't work because you're just starting and you got to start from 0. You have to start from 0.
And it also depends on like, what are you wanting to get out of this? Because yes, you want to build that community. And if you're anything like me, you want to get that dopamine rush of people watching you live and asking questions. I mean, that feels great, but like sometimes people don't turn up. Never, by the way, never rely on questions from your audience if you've got a guest on. You have to have pre-prepared questions. It's great when they ask you questions, but yeah, just bear that in mind. So, and just remember, what's your purpose with this? You know, for me, my purpose is, yes, to be more visible. I want to make connections with my potential clients, but I also want to have great connections and conversations with fascinating guests as well. So there's, if there was 0 people watching me when I'm live, as long as there are people watching me later on, and I've also been able to repurpose that into my podcast, which is, you know, there's actually more people that probably listen to my podcast than my live show, then it's a win-win.
Okay. Now, also boring. So you said boring, which is really interesting. I just thought the other day, I don't know if somebody said this before, but I thought, you know, we all work so hard to fit in, and the ones that make it are the ones that stand out, you know, like the ones that we notice on the landscape of whatever it is in music, any sort of level of celebrity or influence. They were different and they stood out, and the rest of us are all trying to just fit in. But I do think you bring up some really good points, because for the longest time when I was on social media, is I tried to control my energy because I am a high energy person, and I thought it came off juvenile, not mature, and I was trying to look professional. And nuts to that, I gave that up eventually. And I was like, then people are like, oh, I love your energy. I'm like, oh, it was very exhausting suppressing that. I'm so glad. But okay, so that, you know, it does really, it's not about being inauthentic, because I don't like that word. I feel like nobody would try to be inauthentic, but that we have this idea that there's different versions of ourselves. So you try to be grown up and professional. So I think it's a really good point that you talk about addressing that. So now, boring, 2 things. I keep hearing, you know, show and tell. Chris, you got to show and tell. So even though we're all about, you know, systems and hiring people and building your win team and stuff, it's like, okay, you know, I argue that it's not about productivity hacks, because productivity hacks, it's like getting fitness hacks from somebody that's really in shape. When you have a system in play, you don't need hacks, right? It's there. So I keep, in my mind, if I go live, I should be doing some show and tell of examples, or here's how you set up your calendar, or here's how we create systems. But you're saying be boring. Can you lean into that a little bit more?
Oh, no, I was saying don't be boring. I was saying,
oh, I thought you said be boring. I was like, that made no sense.
Okay, well, glad we clarified that one up. Yeah, no.
Because I even repeated be boring. I thought I did not understand that. Well, hello, if everyone's listening, we should start this whole thing over.
So like, yeah, I mean, don't be afraid of who you are. Like, gotcha. and like, if you are like a geeky person, be geeky. Okay. But yeah, I mean, you need to don't be like everyone else. And I love that example with you, because you're not the only person I've spoken to who's tried to tone down their energy. Like, you already, you know this, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, that you will be too high energy for some people, and that's totally fine. You've just got to be you. Like, I'm not, I would say I'm not so energetic as you, but I'm just being me, and my audience like me for who I am. If I tried to be like really energized, first of all, I would be I'd have to go to bed probably for a week. But also, like, when I meet with my clients, they'd think, this is a different guy, you know, that's not good. So yeah.
Okay, so in leading into that boring thing, I totally misunderstood. So we should have somebody here talk about listening skills, because I thought you said be boring. But anyhow, when we talk about that too, it does lend itself where LinkedIn, I think it's changing. You know, I think we're getting a new perspective on what LinkedIn is. But I do think maybe I heard the word boring for a reason, because we do tend to think like, okay, if I'm going to be on LinkedIn, I have to be way more academic than I would be on another platform. Like, okay, let's be serious in front of the desk, whatever. So just be you. It sounds ridiculous. I know you think how many times people have to tell you this, but it does really matter. So if, you know, whatever your energy is, do it. And that, I guess too, it's so easy to follow a script and say, oh, this is how other people are doing their lives. They're sitting at a desk or whatever. But then again, this one person's going to break through and do this amazing stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, he did his videos totally different. There's all these things he's doing. And you're like, oh, well, I could have done that. I just thought we were supposed to be over here doing it this way. So do whatever you want to do, as long as you're doing consistently. And you do believe that doing this on a regular basis, I mean, I know in LinkedIn too, on your phone, it'll pop up that there's a live. Yeah. So that's a different priority as well.
It's for you and for your audience, because like if you get out of practice, you'll forget what you're doing. I mean, this always happens to me. I always take my summer off. I don't go live for like a whole month because I want to spend time with my family. I need to switch off. But when I get back, it's always an effort. It's always because I then forget what I'm doing, even though I've got lists and everything. So there's that, but also you need to teach your audience that you're going live regularly on these days. So that's important. And the other thing is like, just, you know, being yourself, make sure you're talking about stuff that excites you, that your audience are going to like, and get into the details. I am a big believer in also talking about what works, but what doesn't work. This might not be everyone's thing, but I actually, when I realized that the podcast host is actually being honest about the times they've failed, that makes me trust them more and makes me like it makes it, because this is empathy. Like sometimes we can look at the marketers out there, the business owners, and think they've got it all sorted. Like my business is a mess, and then when you start to hear like they haven't got it all perfect, you know, but they've got a plan, they've got a process that works, but they've also had those dark moments, those down moments as well. So actually putting a little bit of that in it, if you're comfortable doing that, I personally like that. I think that's a really powerful thing.
Okay, so then what I'm understanding here is this, is going live, because so many of us aren't doing it. So just by the virtue of doing it is going to, you know, separate us from the crowd. And then it's going to be, if we do it consistently, we can't help but get a little bit of an audience because we're showing up when other people aren't. We're being consistent. We'll get better and better at producing our content and finding our messaging because we're out there more, right? Then we can play around the rules of engagement are just go live. So we can figure out the length, we can figure out what we're going to put in it, just keep doing it and make, you know, it's going to be messy. It's not going to be perfect, but just keep doing that. Now, and then the big mistakes are, you know, don't get caught up in any rules of engagement. Just as long as you're going live, be who you are and figure out your content. Now on these things too, I don't know if this is just too tech of a question. Can we do screen share with these tools? Okay.
Yeah, you can do all of that. I mean, it's not complicated. You can bring in guests, you can share your screen, you can put videos on there as well. It's very, very easy to do.
I'm not gonna lie, you've almost inspired me. All right, because I really,
but almost, not quite. I need to try harder.
No, I think well, I guess what I would say is you almost make it sound exciting. Like before I was like, oh, okay, I have to do it. But now I think, well, this almost sounds like fun. And before it sounded like a chore that I kept thinking, well, we'll do this, we'll do whatever.
But it's so much fun. It's because I think there's also the energy we've got, I hope, I mean, I'm feeling this on this recording now is great. But when it's live, I mean, you know, if for example, I could like make a complete fool of myself, mess up on my words, and you can edit that later. But on live, you can't. And that authenticity and that excitement, just, I don't know, there's something amazing about that. And you can have so much fun. And also you've got that interaction with your audience. And I find when I do get questions from my audience, they're amazing. It's like this exclusive access to you. They're asking you questions and they feel they can get to know you more as well. So I think that's the great thing about live.
Okay. All right. And but listen, we don't edit much here. I'm telling you, you can mess up all over the place. I spent half this interview thinking you said be boring and this is going to be in here. So we're all about being flawed here. Let me tell you. Okay. All right. So all we need to do is we just need to set this up, play, no big deal. And the great part of it is so many people aren't going to do the lives. Even just that one thing, like I said to you, I quit and went home because there was a third-party app for LinkedIn. And I kind of have thought, well, LinkedIn doesn't really want me to do this because you can't do it live. What's the investment? Let's move on. So I do think you make it sound exciting. And I was thinking when I was having you on the show, I was thinking that there's going to be so much more nuances or mechanics to learning it. Really, it's get up there, get live. You need a third-party app. That's it. And the rest is up to you. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to make all these lists and do all this stuff, but just show up. Like Gretzky says, show up.
There are loads of things we could talk about, but that's for later. You know, I would say the first thing that I would recommend that people do is, now this might sound ominous, but it isn't, I promise you, is what I call a planning document. And in that, all you're doing is like, what's the show about? Who is the show for? And then I recommend that people come up with 3 themes. So my show is the Confident Live Marketing Show. It's about helping business owners get more confident with live video. But I have 3 themes. And the first theme is mindset and confidence, getting in front of the camera, that kind of thing. Then it's the tech and gear. And the third one is content and marketing. And then that really helps me come up with ideas for each episode. So it might be one week will be about mindset. The next week will be about business and marketing. Once you've done that planning, it just means that everything is going to be so much easier for you. And you've got a plan, you know what you're going to do. And it means you're probably going to give up. Well, you're probably not going to give up as easily as some people do. I know they get to episode, say 10, and well, it's not working. But with this,
nobody likes me.
Proper plan. Exactly. Yeah.
I think let me clarify. I know that you've got the goods and there's so much more we could be talking about, but I think what I have learned today though is we all make things so much more academic and problematic than it is. And the point of entry doesn't have to be such an obstacle. The point of entry is pick one of these platforms, find a tool that's going to work for you, StreamYard, Restream, whatever, and then just go. And you can learn as we go. And there's other things we can learn. But the obstacle to entry was not as severe as I thought it was. It's like, let's just play and figure it out.
Well, let's face it, like most of us, we're not going to talk about the last couple of years, but most of us are pretty familiar with using Zoom and tools like that. So if you can use Zoom, to be honest, these tools are even easier than that. It's just like click a button, choose where you're going to go live, go. That's it really.
Well, Ian, you watch out. They're coming. My lives are coming. I've said it now. Mark my words, everyone. It's out there. I got to do it. I'm going to do it. Okay. So hopefully you'll cheer me on. Ian, where can we find more of your excellence?
Well, probably the best place is my website, iag.me. And you can check out the podcast, the Confident Live Marketing Podcast at iag.me/podcast. And just follow me on the socials. I've carelessly scattered myself across most of them. So just stalk me in a nice way. And, don't just stalk me, just, say hello and we'll have a chat.
We'll do that. All right, everyone else, we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.